Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. If you feel free to come down to the floor, we're going to start in a nice seated position, sitting up nice and tall, lifting ourselves off our lower back. We're just going to soften, close the eyes, begin by slowing down the breath today. Inhaling in through the nose and out through the nose. We're just going to continue with that motion, just slowing down the breath, seeing how far we can extend the inhales. And see if you can match that duration for the exhales. Just going to go through that a few times, just giving ourselves a moment just to reset, just emptying out the mind before we commence today's practice. Okay, from here we're just going to move straight into tabletop position, stacking our wrists on top of our elbows, on top of our shoulders, and stacking our hips on top of our knees. I'm just going to have a few moments here, trying to get nice and long. Pretend there's a string pulling you from your hips towards the back wall and from the tip of your head towards the wall in front. We're just trying to see if we can get nice and long in the back of the body. You might start to feel a little bit of a natural bend in the back here, a little bit of arching. It's perfectly fine. Just realigning the spine here. Continue to breathe nice and deep as you do so. Okay, and then from here we're just going to simply inhale in, arch the body down, lift the hips up, and try and pull your chest forward to look in front of you. And then as we exhale, slowly begin to exhale and then start to vacuum the lower abdomen into the back body, curving round. And a nice stretch across the back body. And then as we inhale, reverse the motion, again arching the back, get a nice extension across the front of the body. We're just reversing that motion, just getting everything nice and loose here, taking our time with the breath. Inhaling in, exhaling out. Inhaling in and exhaling out. Okay, from here we're going to return to flat back. This time we're going to take our left leg, going to bring it out to the side. So the heel should be in line with our right knee, and if you can, see if you can straighten out the knee and point the toes forward so that it remains in line with you, depending on your level of flexibility, taking it out wide enough that this leg stays stacked on top of itself and that your hips remain aligned. So if you feel this is a little too tight, feel free to introduce a little bit of a bend in the knee here. Otherwise, feel free to maybe just put pressure into the outside edge of that leg just to increase the intensity as you need it. If you've been working out or doing any sort of physical exercise, you might find that your hamstrings might feel a little tight in this. Don't worry about it. If it starts to feel too uncomfortable, just ease it back by bending that knee. We're just going to continue on with the cat-cow here, inhaling in as we arch the back. You might find you might become a little more restricted in the range of motion here, but as we inhale up, you'll feel a nice increase in intensity and stretch here. Then as we exhale, curving under, easing off, inhaling, breathing through. Again, you might not move very far, you might feel like you've not moved at all, but as long as you're starting to feel that little bit of an increase in the stretch, don't worry about it this evening or the morning, depending on what time of day it is for you. We're just going to slowly come around with this stretch, just easing everything off. Inhaling, coming through. Exhaling, easing off. Just take your time with it. Might feel like you're not doing very much first time round, but over time should become easier and easier. Okay, on your next inhale, we're going to rise up. We're going to stand on our right knee. And then from here, we're just going to take our hands overhead and then to the side that has the extended leg. So for me, that's my left leg. We're going to grab hold of our right wrist and we're just going to slowly bring the arm up and over, creating a nice stretch down the right side of the body. We're just going to hold it here. Again, depending on your level of flexibility or how tight you're feeling today, some of you might only move a degree or two. Some of you might get to 45 degrees, and depending on your level of flexibility, you might even get further. So just go where's comfortable today. We don't want to be sinking into our left side or starting to roll forward. We want to make sure our shoulders are still aligned and that we're only just starting to bend to the side. Keeping our shoulders down and away from the ears. And then inhaling, coming up. And then we're just going to come down. We're going to take it to the other side this time. So I'll change what way I'm facing just so you can see it from a different angle. We're taking the right leg out to the side this time, pressing into the outside edge of that heel. Hands down in front of you. And as we inhale, begin to pull your chest up, arching the back, pulling your waistband up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, bring the lower abdomen under, nice back arch. Inhaling, coming up. And exhaling, curving forward. And just feel free to go in time with your own breath here, just slowing it down over time. Okay, then on your next inhale, we'll come up to a flat back. We're just going to slowly come up to a standing position on the left knee this time. And then we're going to take our hands overhead. We're going to grab hold of our left arm. We're just going to pull over, starting to fold over the right. Just getting a nice stretch across right here. If you find sometimes, depending on your level of tightness, you might actually feel it a bit too intense, the right side of the back. At this point, again, just feel free to bend that leg slightly, and that'll allow you just to ease the pressure on the back of the body whilst maintaining a nice long stretch. And once you're in a position that feels comfortable, You can play around just with re-straightening that leg again. Continuing to breathe nice and controlled here. Try to breathe into all parts of the body here. Don't just take shallow breaths into the upper chest. Try and see if you can make your abdomen rise as you inhale. And then as you exhale, see if there's a little bit of room to play with. Maybe you're able to fold over a little bit further. Okay, and from here, again, we're going to pull the leg in, coming to tabletop position. And we're going to take a little bit of a modified pigeon here. So beginning with our left leg, we're going to bring it in front of us, extending the right leg back behind us. So we're going to get into a nice comfortable position, really pressing into the tops of our feet. Maybe lifting, or at least the sensation of lifting that back knee up off the floor as we sit up nice and tall here, shoulders down away from the ears. Just continuing to breathe nice and deeply. Try and see if you can let your hip flexor sink towards the floor. Again, feel free to modify slightly to where's most comfortable for you. In this pose, your legs will naturally start to move into a position that's a bit more friendly depending on your level of stiffness. Okay, then from here, we're going to place our left hand out in front of us, and if it's available to you, we're going to lift the back leg up, maybe grabbing hold with the right leg. If you can't quite reach, feel free to use a belt or a strap it around the foot and take hold with your arm just while you ease off. And then we're just going to take a hold, maybe holding the outside edge of that foot. If it's too intense, just feel free to ease it back to wherever's most comfortable. And then we're just going to straighten up the chest, still sitting up nice and proud as we do this. Depending on your level of flexibility, you might be able to bring it in towards your back body, maybe getting your ankle to touch your glutes. Otherwise, if it feels too intense, just wherever's most comfortable today. We're in no hurry, we're in no rush. We also want to protect the knees. This can cause a lot of pulling around the knees, so if it starts feeling comfortable again, we want to keep our knees for basically the rest of our lives, so we don't want to ruin them this early on into the session. Okay, then from here we're just going to slowly drop that right leg back to the floor. We're just going to come down onto our forearms. Now we'll ease off on the back, but you might feel a more intense stretch across the glutes. And then really stretching forward, maybe getting your forehead to the floor. Continue to press into the tops of both feet. And then from here, just going to slowly come back onto our hands, rising up. We're going to curl around the back toes. going to kick our left leg back, coming up into three-legged dog, and then bring it down to the floor into downward facing dog. And we're just going to chill out here. So as this is the first one of the day, feel free to maybe lift up a little bit higher, maybe bend the knees, maybe pedal it out, whatever feels good to you this evening. Just continue to breathe nice and deeply, focusing on straightening the back first before you begin to straighten your legs. And then with the right leg this time, going to come forward to a high plank and bring that right leg down in front of us, again into a modified pigeon. Straightening up the back left foot, getting nice and comfortable, pressing to the upper parts of our feet, sitting up nice and tall, chest proud, pulling our shoulders down and away from our ears. And taking our right arm to the middle this time, we're going to lift our left leg up if that's available to us. Just going to grab hold wherever's comfortable. Maybe it's using a belt, maybe it's grabbing the outside edge of this leg. Sorry, the outside of the foot. Maybe you want to go the leg if you want a little bit more of a stretch. But we're just going to stay with the foot today, keeping the chest nice and proud. Slowly pulling left leg to the body, maybe touching out the back of our leg, otherwise just wherever's comfortable today. Continue to breathe nice and deeply here. Can feel a little funky in this pose, but just bear with it, especially if your posture's been off for a little while. This might feel a little bit strange because you're really having to really tighten up how your spine aligns here. There's a lot of twisting, a lot of turning, a lot of stretching of areas that may not conventionally get stretched very often. Surprising when you sit down all day actually how long your quads remain activated, and that's why they get very tight over time. So we're just reversing, I wouldn't call it damage, but we're just reversing the habits of Western society. Okay, from here we're just going to lower that back leg down. Again, we're going to come forward just to rest on our forearms, maybe taking the arms further and bringing our heads to the floor. Forgot to mention last time, but if you've got a block or anything, feel free to put that under your forehead, and that will allow you just to sit with a little less intensity, but still getting a nice long stretch. Okay, then from here, we're going to come back up onto our hands, curl that back foot under, and again we're just going to bring the right leg up into three-legged dog before bringing it down to our mat into downward facing dog. This time we're just going to see if we can maybe get our waistband a little bit higher this time, lifting it maybe a little bit further towards the ceiling. Then on an inhale, we're going to come forward and lower ourselves onto the floor in front of us. We're going to begin just by taking our forearms to the floor, making sure our arms are at 90 degrees, and we're going to pull our chest up and through nice and proud into Sphinx pose. So we want to keep the shoulders back and away from the ears, keeping our chest proud here, and to make it a full body experience, we're going to press our legs and the tops of our feet into the floor, and that will ensure our whole body's engaged. Making sure every little muscle is getting activated here, especially for those that might be a little bit hyper flexible. The more we engage those little muscles, the more we can support ourselves, prevents any future injuries. And then on the next exhale, we're going to lower down. Then we're going to take our hands to our lower ribcage. And on an inhale, we're going to lift up again. We're just lifting up the chest here. If it makes you feel like you're activating, lift the hands up. Make sure you don't fall to the floor. And exhale, come down. And we're going to take our arms super wide here. And then we're going to lift ourselves up again, maybe a little bit higher. And exhale back down. And lastly, bringing our hands in and under and lifting all the way up into upward facing dog. If it's a little too intense, feel free to drop the knees here, but otherwise the only things that should be in contact with the floor are our hands and the tops of our feet. So just take a moment here to check in. Make sure everything's nice and aligned. Make sure the shoulders are down and back, chest is through and proud. Chin slightly tucked. Again, we just want to get a little bit of that extension up the back of the neck. Then on the next exhale, we're going to drop the knees and push back into child's pose. Keeping our arms out nice and long in front of us. Just making sure we're still getting that nice stretch across the side body. Feel free to rest the head on the floor if that's available to you. If it feels a little bit too intense on the knees, feel free to use a towel or a cushion and just place it between your glutes and your ankles, and that'll just lift you up a little bit and just reduce that intensity slightly. Okay, from here, one last time, we're going to come up, kick the heels back. We're coming into downward facing dog. Breathing in nice and deeply. See if we can get our waistband a little bit higher up than we did last time. Don't worry if you can't. It's all about the intention. Then from here we're just going to step forward, baby stepping towards the front of the mat, 1 foot at a time, taking our time as we reach to the front. And then as we come up, we're going to come up 1 vertebra at a time, just very slowly here. It's a very nice stretch, but we've got to take our time with it. Lifting up nice and controlled, stacking with our tailbone, coming up, eventually rolling the shoulders back, and then finally our head, lifting the arms up to point to the ceiling, and then taking our arms to our side. We're going to bring the feet just a little wider than the hip width, and then nice and controlled, we're going to squat down to the floor, take a nice deep squat, and we're going to take our arms and we're going to place them in between our feet, sorry, not our feet, our knees, and we're just going to gently clasp our hands together in a prayer position and then push out from the elbows. So as you push more into the hands, you'll cause a firmer push with the elbows into the knees, and then you're just getting a nice stretch across the inner thighs here. If this feels too intense, again, if you've got those blocks or cushions handy, just stepping them under your ankles will give you a little more purchase. And then while we're sitting here, on the inhales, feel that expansion, the intensity of the stretch, and then as we exhale, see if you can sit up maybe a little bit more firmly, sit a little bit taller, a little bit higher, whilst also deepening the stretch. And then to end the pose, just simply in control, lean back to sit on the floor, slowly coming down to the mat. So for our final pose today, we're going to lie on our back, hands out by our side, palms facing the ceiling, and then we're going to take our feet together, knees up, and then we're going to open up the knees into very similar to a cobbler's pose, but we're lying down this time and just creating that nice stretch across the inner thigh, just using gravity to help open up that stretch. So we're going to push a little bit into the outside edges of our feet, just pushing them together. That'll just allow us to engage for that stretch. And then we're going to finish off here with just closing our eyes, softening the breath, just letting ourselves melt into the floor. And we're going to remain here for a few minutes as the video ends this session today. So thank you very much for joining us. We're going to remain here as the video ends, and for those that want to remain longer, feel free to. Ideally when this video ends, you shouldn't be disturbed. There should hopefully be no adverts, and you'll just simmer off, remain as long as you want until the stretch feels nice and comfortable. And I hope you had a great session with me today. I'll see you in the next video.